Deoxyribonucleic acid is a macromolecule that carries genetic information from generation to generation. It is responsible to preserve the identity of the species over millions of years. Every time a human cell divides, it has to copy and transmit the exact same sequence of 3 billion nucleotides to its daughter cells. Consider the countless number of times that your cells divide to make you who you are, not just during development, but even now as a fully mature adult. This is possible through DNA replication. DNA replication is a truly amazing biological phenomenon. Scientists have spent decades of efforts to understand how DNA replicates itself. In simple terms, replication involves use of an existing strand of DNA as a template for the synthesis of a new identical strand. American enzymologist and Nobel Prize winner Arthur Kornberg compared this process to a tape recording of instructions for performing a task. Exact copies can be made from it as from a tape recording, so that this information can be used again and elsewhere in time and space. Thus, DNA replication is the process by which a double-stranded DNA molecule is copied to produce two identical DNA molecules. Replication is an essential process because whenever a cell divides, the two new daughter cells must contain the same genetic information or DNA as the parent cell. The biological information flows unidirectionally from DNA to RNA and from there to proteins. The normal flow of biological information is such that DNA can be copied to DNA through DNA replication, DNA information can be copied into mRNA through transcription, and proteins can be synthesized using the information in mRNA as a template through translation. This is the central dogma of life. The central dogma of molecular biology deals with the detailed residue by residue transfer of sequential information. It should be noted that such information cannot be transferred back from protein to nucleic acid. Salient features of replication include semiconservative replication. As the carrier of genetic information, DNA in a cell must be replicated, maintained and passed down accurately to the daughter cells. When a cell divides, the daughter cells receives an identical copy of genetic information from the parent cell. Before the details of this process could be explored, scientists were faced with a more fundamental research concern. Especially, they wanted to know the overall nature of the process by which DNA replication occurs. Scientists had few clues about what might be occurring at the molecular level during DNA replication, based on which three possible models of DNA replication were proposed. First, conservative model. According to this model, each of the two strands of the parent DNA is replicated to yield the unchanged parent DNA and a newly synthesized DNA. Accordingly, after one round of replication, half of the new DNA double helices would be composed of completely old or original DNA, and the other half would be completely new. During the second round of replication, each double helix would be copied entirely, and 1/4 of the double helices would be completely old and 3/4 would be completely new. Thus, each subsequent round of replication would result in a greater proportion of completely new DNA double helices, while the number of completely original double helices would remain constant. Semiconservative model. According to this model, both the strands of the parent molecule undergo simultaneous replication to produce two daughter molecules. Each one of the newly synthesized DNA has one half of the parental DNA and one half of new DNA. Accordingly, after one round of replication, every new DNA double helix would be a hybrid that consisted of one strand of old DNA bound to one strand of newly synthesized DNA. During the second round of replication, the hybrids would separate and each strand would pair with a newly synthesized strand. Thus, only one half of the new DNA double helices would be hybrids. The other half would be completely new. Every subsequent round of replication, therefore, would result in fewer hybrids and more completely new double helices. Third, dispersive model. According to this model, the parental double helix is broken into double-stranded DNA segments that, as for the conservative model, act as templates for the synthesis of new double helix molecules. The segments then reassemble into complete DNA double helices, each with parental and progeny DNA segments mixed together randomly. Thus, every round of replication would result in hybrids or DNA double helices that are part original DNA and part new DNA. Out of these three models, semi-conservative model was accepted after Matthew Meselson's and Frank Stahl performed an experiment in E. coli cells in 1958 as postulated by Watson and Crick. Meselson and Stahl's experiment. The experiment carried out by Meselson and Stahl involved growing a culture of Escherichia coli in a medium containing ammonium chloride labeled with heavy isotope of nitrogen. Cells were then transferred to normal medium containing ammonium chloride with normal nitrogen, and samples were taken after 20 minutes, that is after one cell division, and after 40 minutes, that is after two cell divisions. DNA was extracted from each sample and the molecules were analyzed by density gradient centrifugation. After 20 minutes, that is after one cell division, the entire DNA contained similar amount of N14 and N15, but after 40 minutes, two bands were seen, one intermediate density band corresponding to hybrid N14-N15 DNA and the other lower density band corresponding to DNA molecules made entirely of N14. The predicted outcome of the experiment was discussed for each of the three possible models of DNA replication. The banding pattern seen after first division could not explain conservative model of replication, as this scheme predicts that after one round of replication there should be two different types of double helix, one containing N15 and the other containing just N14. This was not observed, and thus this model was rejected. The single N14-N15 DNA band that was actually seen after 20 minutes explains both dispersive and semi-conservative replication. However, the two bands seen after 40 minutes were consistent with only semi-conservative replication. This is because dispersive replication should continue to give hybrid N14-N15 molecules after two rounds of replication, which is not observed in the results, whereas the granddaughter molecules produced at this stage by semi-conservative replication include two strands that were made entirely of N14 DNA. Thus, the results were consistent with the semi-conservative model of replication and the reality that when DNA replicated, each new double helix was built with one old strand and one new strand. If the dispersive model were the correct model, the scientist would have continued to observe only a single band after every round of replication. Following the publication of Meselson and Stahl's result, many scientists confirmed that semi-conservative replication was the rule not just in E. coli but in every other species studied as well. To date, no one has found any evidence for either conservative or dispersive DNA replication. Next, direction of replication. It has been reported by many scientists that DNA can replicate semi-conservatively, either unidirectionally or bidirectionally. Since prokaryotes have circular DNA, replication begins from a fixed region and then proceeds bidirectionally with forks moving in opposite direction. Forks finally merge and end at a site called the terminus. Both strands of parental DNA are thus replicated simultaneously until the two growing points meet. At this point, the two daughter DNA molecules separate. However, the circular DNAs of mitochondria and a number of viruses replicate unidirectionally, wherein growth of the new strand is initiated at a single point, proceeding around the entire circle until the growing point returns to the original initiation point. Next, prokaryotic DNA polymerases. DNA polymerase is a type of enzyme that is responsible for forming new copies of DNA in the form of nucleic acid molecules. It does so by assembling nucleotides, chemically connecting them to one another. The principal chemical reaction catalyzed by a DNA polymerase is the 5' to 3' synthesis of DNA polynucleotides. Some DNA polymerases combine this function with at least one exonuclease activity, which means that these enzymes can degrade polynucleotides as well as synthesize them. In prokaryotes, 3 different types of polymerases are present. DNA Polymerase III. This is the primary enzyme involved in DNA replication in E. coli. This is a multi-subunit enzyme with a molecular mass of approximately 900 kilodalton. The 3 main subunits which form the core enzyme are called alpha, epsilon and theta. The polymerase activity is specified by alpha subunit and the 3' to 5' exonuclease by epsilon subunit. The function of theta is not identified yet, but it is considered to have a purely structural role in bringing together the other 2 core subunits and in assembling the various accessory subunits. DNA Polymerase II. This enzyme is involved in repairing damaged DNA and has 3' to 5' exonuclease activity. The enzyme is 90 kilodalton in size and is coded by the Pol B gene. DNA Pol II can synthesize DNA by adding new base pairs at an average rate of 40 to 50 nucleotides per second. DNA Polymerase I, also known as Korenberg's enzyme. This enzyme is involved in DNA repair and proofreading. It has 5' to 3' polymerase activity and 3' to 5' exonuclease activity called as proofreading, as well as 5' to 3' exonuclease activity. Continuous and discontinuous replication. Generally, all the DNA polymerase enzymes are able to synthesize DNA in the 5' to 3' direction only. One strand of the parent double helix which can be copied in a continuous manner from the 5' end is called the leading strand. Replication of the other strand starting from the 3' end presents some problems, as DNA polymerase enzyme cannot catalyze the addition of nucleotides to the 5' end of growing chain. This problem is solved by synthesizing this strand as a series of small fragments. These fragments of newly synthesized DNA along the lagging strand are called Okazaki fragments, named in the honor of their discoverer, Japanese molecular biologist Reiji Okazaki. As this strand has to be replicated in a discontinuous fashion, the newly synthesized strand here is called as lagging strand, as it lags behind the other strand, that is leading strand. Next is need for RNA primers. The template dependent DNA polymerases cannot initiate DNA synthesis on a molecule that is entirely single stranded. This means that there must be a short double stranded region to provide a 3' end onto which the enzyme can add new nucleotides. Hence, short stretches of nucleotide, that is RNA primers, are needed to initiate complementary strand synthesis on the leading polynucleotide strand, and one for every segment of discontinuous DNA synthesized on the lagging strand. Next is complementary addition of nucleotides. Because the two strands of a DNA molecule have complementary base pairs, the nucleotide sequence of each strand automatically supplies the information needed to produce its partner. Complementary base pairing is very important in the conservation of the base sequence of DNA. This is because adenine always pairs up with thymine and guanine always pairs up with cytosine. When the two strands of a DNA molecule are separated, each can be used as a pattern or template to produce a complementary strand. As replication is semi-conservative, that is, one old strand and one new strand make up the new DNA molecule, this complementary base pairing allows the two DNA molecules to be identical to each other as they have the same base sequence. The new strand formed are complementary to their template strand, but also identical to the other template. Therefore, complementary base pairing has a big role in conservation of the base sequence of DNA. The major components of prokaryotic DNA replication. Arthur Korenberg in 1955 worked with E. coli and discovered the mechanism of DNA synthesis. According to his study, the major components that are required for prokaryotic DNA replication include DNA template, that is the DNA that is to be copied or replicated, DNTPs, that is deoxyribonucleoside 5' triphosphates, which include DATP, DTTP, DGTP and DCTP, DNA helicase, also known as helix destabilizing enzyme, that unwinds the DNA double helix at the replication fork, DNA polymerase, that builds a new duplex DNA strand by adding nucleotides in the 5' to 3' direction. It also performs proofreading and error correction. There exist many different types of DNA polymerase, each of which perform different function in different types of cells. Mg+2 ions, they optimizes DNA polymerase activity. Single strand binding proteins, it bind to single stranded DNA and prevent the DNA double helix from re-annealing after DNA helicase unwinds it, thus maintaining the strand separation. Topoisomerase, it relieves strain of positive supercoils created due to unwinding by DNA helicase. DNA ligase, it re-anneals the Okazaki fragments of the lagging strand. Primase, it provides a starting point of RNA or DNA for DNA polymerase to begin synthesis of the new DNA strand. Replication process. The process of prokaryotic DNA replication has 3 steps. First, initiation. The initiation of DNA synthesis occurs at a site called origin of replication. This unique origin is termed ORIC and is about 245 base pair long and has several components. This site consists of 3 80-rich 13-mer repeats at the left side of the site of origin and 4 9-mer invert repeats towards right. 10 to 20 monomers of the replication initiator protein DNA A bind to the 9-mer repeats and the DNA gets coiled around this protein complex, forming a protein core. This coiling stimulates the 80-rich region in the 13-mer sequence to unwind. Following this, the helicase loader DNA C load the helicase DNA B to each of the 2 unwound DNA strands for breaking the hydrogen bonds. This causes the double-stranded DNA to open. Single strand binding proteins. Once open, the single-stranded DNA has a natural tendency of reforming base pairs immediately after the enzymes has passed. It is also susceptible to nuclease attack and is likely to be degraded if not protected. to avoid these unwanted outcomes, single-stranded binding proteins attach to the polynucleotides and prevent them from reassociating or being degraded. While unwinding, the DNA by helicase positive supercoils are created along the way. These need to be removed. The DNA gyrase, a bacterial topoisomerase type 2 enzyme, removes these positive supercoils using ATP as energy source. Melting of the helix initiates a series of events that construct a nascent replication fork at either end of the open region, that is, at replication bubble. After the helicase has bound to the origin to form pre-priming complex, primase is recruited. This assembly is called as primosome. Primase initiates replication of leading strand. It does this by synthesizing short RNA primers, about 5 to 50 nucleotides, that DNA polymerase III needs in order to begin copying the template. A constant synthesis and supply of RNA primers should occur on the lagging strand of DNA. This is in contrast to the leading strand, which requires just a single RNA primer. Second step, elongation. The replication of DNA occurs in 5' to 3' direction simultaneously on the both strands. The incoming deoxynucleotides are added one after another to the 3' end of growing DNA chain. A molecule of pyrophosphate is removed with the addition of each nucleotide. The sequence of the newly synthesized DNA is determined by template DNA strand complementarily. The leading strand with its 3' end oriented towards the fork can be elongated by sequential addition of new nucleotides continuously till the other end, while the other DNA strand, that is the lagging strand with 5' end, keeps synthesizing discontinuously in the form of Okazaki fragments as explained earlier. The synthesis of new strand continues till it is in close proximity to RNA primer. Now, the action of DNA polymerase I come in play. It removes the RNA primers and catalyzes the synthesis in 5' to 3' direction of a fragment of DNA and thereby replaces RNA primers. The enzyme DNA ligase catalyzes the formation of a phosphodiester linkage between the DNA synthesized by DNA polymerase III and the small fragments of DNA produced by DNA polymerase I. This process of nick sealing requires energy, which is provided by breakdown of ATP to AMP and PPI. Besides its 5' to 3' directed catalytic function, DNA polymerase III also has proofreading activity. It keeps on checking the incoming nucleotides and allows only the correctly matched bases to be added through the growing DNA strand. Third step, termination. Termination of DNA replication in E. coli is completed through the use of 6 terminator sequences, 3 on each side. These sequences act as landing pads for specific proteins called TUS proteins. TUS proteins act as one-way gates for the replication forks. They allow one fork to pass through in one direction but does not allow the progression of the other fork attempting to move through it in the opposite direction. Thus, TUS proteins manage to trap the replication fork by one phase of the protein interacting with the DNA B helicases in such a way that it prevents them from continuing to open the DNA. The effect of this is that both forks become trapped in a relatively short region between the closest two TUS proteins, which are in opposite orientation. Thus, DNA replication initially produces 2 catenated or linked circular DNA duplexes, each comprising one parental strand and one newly synthesized strand, by the nature of semiconservative replication. This catenation can be visualized as two interlinked rings which cannot be separated. Topoisomerase IV in E. coli unlinks or decatenates the two circular DNA duplexes. All of the enzymes required for DNA replication drop off the DNA at this point, allowing the DNA to be cut. This is the end of prokaryotic DNA replication.